The rain fell in acidic sheets across Neo Angeles, turning the neon signs into watercolor smears against the concrete canyon walls. In the shadow of the towering corporate arcologies, where the wealthy lived in climate-controlled paradise, the alien quarter festered like an open wound. Zara pressed herself deeper into the doorway, her translucent blue skin glistening with moisture that wasn't entirely from the rain. The hunger was eating her alive from the inside, a crystalline burning that started in her core and spread outward like frost on glass. Her people, the Veltheri, needed selenium compounds to survive, trace minerals that Earth's soil barely contained, and that cost more than gold on the black market. She hadn't eaten in 6 days. Her reflection stared back from the puddle at her feet. High cheekbones that could cut glass, silver eyes that seemed to hold galaxies, hair like spun starlight that moved with its own ethereal current. Once, on her homeworld of Velthera Prime, she had been considered beautiful. Here, she was just another refugee freak desperate enough to sell the only thing she had left. The street buzzed with late-night activity. Humans hurried past with their heads down, deliberately avoiding eye contact with any of the alien inhabitants. A group of Nexari huddled around a burning trash can, their scaled hides gleaming green in the firelight. A lone Kethmori sat motionless in the rain, his 4 arms wrapped around his insectoid body, probably already dead from starvation. Nobody cared. Nobody looked. Zara stepped out of the doorway, her bare feet splashing in the contaminated water. The synthetic dress she wore, her last decent piece of clothing, clung to her emaciated frame. She had been a xenobiologist back home, a researcher who studied the microscopic life forms in the planet's crystal caves. Now she was reduced to this. A businessman in an expensive suit approached, his augmented eyes glowing blue in the darkness. He slowed when he saw her, his gaze traveling up and down her body with the cold calculation of someone appraising livestock. For a moment, hope fluttered in her chest like a dying bird. "Please," she whispered, her voice carrying the musical undertones of her species. "I just need enough for food. Just enough to—" The man's lip curled in disgust. "Fucking aliens," he muttered, quickening his pace. "Should have stayed on your own dead rock." The words hit her like physical blows. Zara wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hold back the sob that threatened to escape. The hunger gnawed at her, and she could feel her body beginning to shut down. Without selenium, her cellular structure would begin to crystallize. She would become a living statue, conscious but unable to move, until her organs finally gave out. A hovercar splashed through a puddle nearby, soaking her further. Inside, she glimpsed a family of humans, parents and 2 children, all clean and well-fed, heading home to their safe neighborhood where aliens weren't allowed after dark. "Hey, beautiful!" Zara turned to see 3 young men approaching, their synthetic leather jackets gleaming wet. Gang members by the look of their tattoos and the swagger in their walk. One of them, a wiry kid with chrome teeth, was grinning at her. "You looking for work?" he asked, his friends chuckling behind him. Zara's heart hammered. These weren't potential customers, they were predators. She'd heard the stories, seen the bodies. Human gangs who hunted aliens for sport, who took what they wanted and left nothing but corpses. I should go," she stammered, backing away. Hey, don't be like that," Chrome Teeth said, his voice dripping false sweetness. "We're just trying to help out a struggling entrepreneur. Isn't that what you are? An entrepreneur." His friends spread out, blocking her escape routes. Zara's breath came in short gasps. She was too weak to run, too weak to fight. The hunger had taken too much from her. "Please," she whispered again, but she knew it was useless. These humans weren't interested in paying for anything. They were interested in taking. Chrome Teeth reached for her, his fingers stretching toward her face. Zara closed her eyes, preparing for the inevitable, when a voice cut through the rain like a blade. "That's far enough." All 4 of them turned. A man stood at the mouth of the alley, his silhouette backlit by the neon signs. He was tall and lean, wearing a long coat that had seen better days. His face was hidden in shadow, but something about his posture, the way he held himself perfectly balanced and ready, made the gang members hesitate. "Walk away," the stranger said quietly. "Now." Chrome Teeth laughed, but it sounded forced. "And what if we don't, old man?" The stranger stepped forward into the light, and Zara gasped. His face was a roadmap of scars, old wounds that spoke of violence survived. His dark eyes held a coldness that made the rain seem warm. But it was his left arm that made the gang members take a step back. It was completely mechanical, a military-grade prosthetic that hummed with barely contained power. "Then you'll find out why they retired me instead of promoting me," he said. Chrome Teeth tried to maintain his bravado, but Zara could see the uncertainty creeping into his posture. The mechanical arm wasn't just for show. The way it moved, fluid and precise, spoke of military-grade neural integration. Expensive. Dangerous. "Come on, Marcus," one of his friends whispered. "Let's just go." So the stranger had a name. Marcus. But Chrome Teeth wasn't ready to back down in front of his crew. "You think one cyber arm makes you scary?" he sneered, pulling a plasma knife from his jacket. The blue energy blade hummed to life, casting an eerie glow across his face. "This is gang territory, cripple. Walk the fuck away." Marcus didn't even blink. Last chance. Chrome Teeth lunged forward with surprising speed, the plasma blade aimed at Marcus's throat. What happened next was so fast that Zara almost missed it. Marcus's mechanical arm moved like liquid lightning, catching the gang member's wrist mid-strike. The sound of bones breaking was audible even over the rain. Chrome Teeth screamed, dropping the knife as Marcus twisted his arm behind his back and drove him face-first into the brick wall. Blood spattered against the wet concrete. "Jesus Christ!" one of the other gang members shouted, pulling his own weapon, a projectile pistol that looked homemade. "Let him go!" Marcus spun Chrome Teeth around, using him as a human shield. The mechanical fingers of his prosthetic pressed against the gang leader's throat, and Zara could see servo motors whirring beneath the synthetic skin. "You boys have two choices," Marcus said, his voice calm as winter. "Option 1, you walk away right now and never come back to this street. Option 2, I demonstrate exactly what this arm can do to a human spine." The remaining gang members looked at each other, their resolve crumbling. Chrome Teeth was making choking sounds, his face turning purple. "Fuck this," the one with the gun muttered, backing away. "He's not worth it." They turned and ran, their footsteps splashing through puddles as they disappeared into the maze of alleys. Marcus held Chrome Teeth for another few seconds, then released him. The gang leader collapsed to his knees, gasping and clutching his throat. "If I see you in this sector again," Marcus said quietly, "I'll assume you're looking for a permanent solution to your breathing problem." Chrome Teeth scrambled to his feet and fled after his friends, leaving only Zara and Marcus in the narrow alley. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the steady drumming of rain on metal fire escapes above. Marcus turned to look at her, and Zara found herself stepping back instinctively. Up close, she could see the full extent of his scars, burn marks along his jawline, a deep gouge across his forehead that spoke of shrapnel, and something in his eyes that suggested he'd seen things that would break most people. "You hurt?" he asked. Zara shook her head, not trusting her voice. The hunger was making her dizzy, and the adrenaline from the confrontation wasn't helping. Marcus studied her for a long moment, his gaze taking in her emaciated frame and the desperate look in her silver eyes. "When's the last time you ate?" he asked. The question caught her off guard. Not what are you selling, not how much, just a simple inquiry about her well-being. Tears she'd been holding back for days finally spilled over. 6 days, she whispered. Marcus nodded as if he'd expected as much. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small device, a credit scanner. "There's a medical supply store 3 blocks from here. Black market, but they don't ask questions. They'll have what you need." He held out the scanner, and Zara stared at it in confusion. "I don't understand. Selenium compounds, right? That's what your species needs to survive." Zara's eyes widened. Most humans didn't know anything about alien biology, didn't care to learn. "How did you?" "I fought alongside a Veltheri unit during the border wars," Marcus said simply. "Good soldiers. Good people. Watched too many of them die when supply lines got cut. He pressed the scanner into her trembling hands. The display showed more credits than Zara had seen in months. Enough for food, shelter, maybe even passage off-world if she was careful. Why? She asked, the word barely audible. Marcus was already turning to leave. Because someone has to give a damn. Wait, Zara called after him. I can't just take this. Let me pay you back somehow. I can. No. The word was sharp, final. Marcus stopped walking but didn't turn around. Whatever you were about to offer, the answer is no. Get your medicine. Get somewhere safe. Stay alive. He started walking again, his long coat billowing behind him in the wind. Zara watched him disappear into the neon-soaked darkness, clutching the credit scanner like a lifeline. The medical supply store was exactly where he'd said it would be, squeezed between a synthetic food stand and a black market cybernetics shop. The owner was a heavily augmented woman who looked like she'd replaced more of herself with machinery than Marcus had. She didn't ask questions when Zara requested selenium supplements. Just scanned the credits and handed over a bottle of pills that glowed faintly blue in the store's harsh lighting. Zara took the first dose right there in the store, dry swallowing the bitter tablet. The effect was almost immediate, a warm, spreading sensation as her cellular structure began to stabilize. The constant burning pain faded to a dull ache, and for the first time in days, she could think clearly. She bought food next, real food, not the synthetic paste that most aliens had to survive on. Protein bars, hydration packets, even some fruit that reminded her of home. Then she found a cheap hotel that rented to aliens, paying for a week in advance. The room was small and dirty, but it had a bed and a shower that produced actual hot water. Zara stood under the spray for 20 minutes, washing away days of grime and desperation. When she looked in the mirror afterward, she almost didn't recognize herself. The color had returned to her skin, and her hair had regained some of its natural luminescence. But she couldn't stop thinking about Marcus, the man who had saved her life and asked for nothing in return. The human who knew about her species, who had fought alongside her people, who had looked at her and seen someone worth helping instead of something to exploit. She had to find him, had to thank him properly, maybe learn his story. But more than that, she had to understand why he'd been so adamant about not accepting payment. In her experience, every act of kindness came with a price tag attached. Zara dressed in the cleanest clothes she owned and ventured back onto the streets. The alien quarter looked different now that she wasn't dying. Still dangerous, still desperate, but no longer hopeless. She started asking questions, showing Marcus's description to anyone who would listen. Most people just shook their heads and moved on. But eventually, she found someone who knew him, an old Nexary named Keth who ran an information brokerage out of an abandoned subway tunnel. Marcus Chen, Keth hissed, his forked tongue tasting the air. Yes, I know this human. Everyone in the underground knows Marcus Chen. Former colonial marine, discharged after Kepler Station. Lives in Sector 7, above the old noodle shop. But I would not seek him out if I were you, pretty one. That human carries darkness with him like a second shadow. Sector 7 was a different kind of hell than the alien quarter. Where her neighborhood was desperate and chaotic, this place was simply dead. Rows of abandoned buildings stretched into the smoggy distance, their windows boarded up or blown out entirely. The few businesses that remained open did so behind heavy security doors and razor wire. Zara found the noodle shop wedged between a pawnbroker and a vacant lot where something had burned down years ago. The sign was in Mandarin characters she couldn't read, but the smell of synthetic broth and recycled protein drifted from the doorway. A narrow staircase led to the apartments above. She climbed 3 flights of creaking stairs before finding the door marked with Marcus's unit number. It was reinforced steel, scarred with what looked like bullet impacts. A small camera lens studied her from above the frame. Zara raised her hand to knock, then hesitated. What was she doing here? Marcus had made it clear he didn't want her gratitude or her money. Maybe she should just leave him alone, move on with her life now that she had a chance at survival. But she couldn't. Something about the way he'd looked at her, not with lust or disgust, but with understanding, had awakened feelings she'd thought were dead. She knocked. Long seconds passed before she heard movement inside. Multiple locks disengaged with mechanical precision. The door opened just wide enough to reveal Marcus's scarred face, his dark eyes immediately scanning the hallway behind her. "How did you find me?" he asked. "I asked around. People know who you are." Marcus stepped aside, motioning her into the apartment. "They shouldn't. I pay good money to be left alone." The space was spartanly furnished but meticulously clean. Military precision in every detail, from the perfectly aligned books on the single shelf to the tactical gear hanging in the closet. But it was the walls that made Zara's breath catch. Photographs covered every available surface. Pictures of soldiers in combat gear, group shots of mixed human and alien units, candid moments of camaraderie during what looked like brief lulls in warfare. And in many of them, she could see a younger Marcus, unscarred and smiling, his arms still flesh and blood. "The 47th Colonial Marines," Marcus said, following her gaze. "Mixed species unit. We called ourselves the Mongrels." "You look happy," Zara observed. "I was. We all were, for a while." Marcus moved to a small kitchenette and started preparing coffee. "Before we learned what the war was really about." Zara studied the photographs more closely. She recognized several alien species among the soldiers, Velthari like herself, Nexari, Kethmori, even a few of the rare Zephyrians with their crystalline exoskeletons. All of them wearing human military uniforms, all of them looking proud to serve. "What happened?" she asked. Marcus was quiet for so long that Zara thought he wouldn't answer. Steam rose from the coffee maker, filling the apartment with a rich aroma that almost masked the underlying scent of weapon oil and old violence. "Kepler Station," he said finally. "We were told it was a routine patrol, checking on a mining operation in the outer rim. But when we got there," he trailed off, his mechanical hand clenching into a fist. "The miners were all dead. Not killed by equipment failure or raiders like we'd been told. Executed. Systematically. Men, women, children, entire families lined up and shot. And the mineral they'd been mining, the stuff we'd been told was for ship hulls and industrial equipment, it was selenium compounds. Concentrated, pure selenium worth more than most planets' entire GDP. Zara felt ice forming in her veins. My people's food source. Your people's lifeline, Marcus corrected. And someone was hoarding it, controlling the supply, driving up prices while aliens starved on every colony world. The brass knew. Hell, they were probably part of it. When we tried to report what we'd found, tried to get the evidence back to Colonial Command, he poured coffee into 2 cups, his movements sharp and angry. They classified it, sealed the records, transferred half our unit to different postings and gave the rest of us gag orders. When Sergeant Velshan, she was Velthari, like you, when she refused to stay quiet, they court-martialed her for insubordination. What did you do? Marcus handed her a cup of coffee. It was strong and bitter, but Zara welcomed the warmth. What any good soldier would do. I followed orders, kept my mouth shut, let them transfer me to a desk job and pretend I'd never seen those mining records. That doesn't sound like you. You don't know me. I know you saved my life last night. I know you gave me enough money to survive without asking for anything in return. That's not the behavior of someone who just follows orders. Marcus was staring at one particular photograph, a group shot of his unit standing in front of a transport ship. Zara could see him in the center, his arm around a tall Velthari woman whose silver hair gleamed in the artificial light. Velshan? She guessed. He nodded. She was... We were... It's complicated. You loved her. I thought I did. Maybe I did. But love doesn't matter much when the system decides someone's life isn't worth protecting. Marcus's voice was getting rougher, older. She died 6 months after the court-martial. Officially, it was listed as cellular degeneration, selenium deficiency. But I knew better. She'd used up her savings fighting the charges, couldn't afford her medicine anymore. The pieces clicked together in Zara's mind. That's why you helped me. You saw her in me. Maybe. Or maybe I was just tired of walking past suffering and pretending it wasn't my problem. Marcus set down his coffee cup with more force than necessary. Either way, you're safe now. You have resources. You can start over somewhere else. Somewhere better. What if I don't want to start over somewhere else? The question hung in the air between them. Marcus looked at her with those dark, haunted eyes, and Zara could see him building walls in real time. Then you're making a mistake, he said. This city eats people like you alive. Go find somewhere safe and make a life for yourself. People like me? People who still believe in hope. People who think one act of kindness means something. People who haven't figured out yet that the universe doesn't care about fairness or justice or love. Zara stood up, setting her coffee aside. You're wrong. Am I? Yes, because if you really believed that, you wouldn't have saved me last night. You wouldn't have given me your money. You wouldn't keep pictures of people you cared about on your walls. She gestured at the photographs surrounding them. You wouldn't still be angry about what happened to Velshan. Marcus's jaw tightened. Anger doesn't change anything. Maybe not, but it means you still care. And that means there's still hope. Before he could respond, a sharp electronic tone filled the apartment. Marcus's eyes went immediately to a security monitor showing the building's entrance. 3 figures in corporate suits were approaching the front door, their movements too coordinated to be casual visitors. Shit, Marcus muttered, already moving toward his weapons closet. You need to leave. Now. Who are they? The kind of people who don't knock. Marcus pulled on a tactical vest and checked the charge on a plasma rifle. There's a fire escape outside the bathroom window. Use it. But Zara was already looking at the monitor, studying the faces of the approaching men. One of them she recognized. A pale human with augmented eyes and a corporate logo tattooed on his neck. I know him, she said. He works for Nexus Corporation. They own half the mining operations in this sector. Marcus paused in his preparations. How do you know that? Because 3 days ago he offered to buy me. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He turned from the weapons closet, his scarred face twisting with a mixture of rage and understanding. Buy you for what? He didn't say specifically, just that Nexus Corporation had acquired several contracts for exotic biological specimens and that I fit their requirements. Zara's voice was steady, but Marcus could see her hands trembling. He offered enough credits to keep me fed for a year, but something about the way he looked at me. You said no. I said no. 2 days later, my credit access was frozen. My housing permit was revoked. The medical supply stores in my sector suddenly stopped carrying selenium compounds. Zara met his eyes. I don't think that was a coincidence. Marcus felt the familiar cold fury building in his chest, the same rage that had gotten him discharged from the Marines. Nexus Corporation, he should have known. They had fingers in every dirty deal from here to the Outer Rim, and their bioresearch division had a reputation for skirting the edges of galactic law. The electronic tone sounded again. On the monitor, the 3 corporate agents had reached the building entrance. One of them was scanning the door with some kind of electronic device while another spoke into a comm unit. They're not here for a social call, Marcus said. If they're tracking you to my apartment, it means they've been watching you. Probably since the moment you turned down their offer. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Don't apologize. We both know this was always going to catch up with me eventually. Marcus pulled on his long coat and holstered a sidearm. The question is what we do about it. We? You think I'm going to let Nexus Corporation turn you into a lab rat? After what they did to my unit, after what they did to Velshan. Marcus's mechanical hand whirred as it formed a fist. Not a chance in hell. The building's front door exploded inward with a sharp crack of splintering wood. Through the security feed, they could see the agents moving efficiently through the ground floor, their weapons drawn and scanning for targets. Fire escape? Zara asked. They'll have the building surrounded. These aren't street thugs, they're corporate security. Military trained, well-equipped, and they probably have air support on standby. Marcus moved to a hidden panel in the wall and withdrew what looked like a small remote control. But I didn't survive 3 tours in the Outer Rim by being unprepared. He pressed a button on the device. Immediately, The apartment's lights went out, replaced by the soft red glow of emergency lighting. From somewhere in the walls came the sound of mechanical systems engaging. What did you do? This building used to be a military safe house. I may have made some modifications to the infrastructure. Marcus shouldered his rifle and moved toward the door. Stay close to me. Whatever happens, don't let them separate us. Footsteps echoed in the stairwell outside, getting closer. Marcus cracked the door and peered out, then pulled back immediately as plasma bolts scorched the air where his head had been. Marcus-chan. The voice echoed up from the stairwell, amplified and distorted by a voice modulator. This is Corporate Security Agent Reynolds. We're not here for you. Send out the alien and we'll consider this a misunderstanding. Counteroffer, Marcus called back. Go fuck yourselves. More plasma fire lit up the hallway. Marcus waited for a lull in the shooting, then triggered another function on his remote. Steel blast shields slammed down over the windows while automated defense turrets deployed from hidden ceiling mounts. Jesus Christ, Zara breathed. How long have you been planning for this? Since the day they discharged me. I knew they'd come eventually. Too many people with too many secrets, and I was a loose end that knew too much. The turrets opened fire, their synchronized bursts forcing the agents to take cover. I just didn't expect them to use you as bait. The attack came from 3 directions at once. Corporate agents breached the apartment through the front door, the bathroom window, and what must have been a service entrance Marcus hadn't known about. They moved with practiced precision, using flashbang grenades and suppression fire to disorient and control. Marcus's response was just as professional. He put 2 plasma bolt center mass into the first agent through the door, then rolled behind his reinforced kitchen counter as return fire turned the air above him into a light show. His mechanical arm moved independently, drawing and firing his sidearm at targets behind him while his flesh hand operated the rifle. The woman is the priority, Agent Reynolds shouted over the gunfire. Chun is expendable. That was their mistake. Marcus had been willing to fight defensively, to hold them off until he could negotiate some kind of escape. But the moment they declared Zara expendable, the last restraints on his military training snapped. He vaulted over the counter in a move that would have been impossible with 2 flesh arms, his mechanical limb absorbing the impact while his legs tucked and rolled. The agent coming through the bathroom window had time to look surprised before Marcus's rifle barrel pressed against his faceplate. Nothing personal, Marcus said and pulled the trigger. The remaining 2 agents tried to flank him, but Marcus had fought in close quarters against opponents who were faster, stronger, and better armed than humans. He used the apartment's layout to his advantage, turning furniture into cover and forcing them into choke points where their superior numbers meant nothing. Zara wasn't just cowering in the corner. When one of the agents got too close to Marcus's blind spot, she grabbed a plasma knife from his tactical vest and drove it into the man's neck. The look of shock on her face said she'd never killed anyone before, but she didn't hesitate when Marcus needed help. Agent Reynolds was the last one standing, his expensive suit torn and his augmented eyes flickering with damaged circuitry. He'd taken a plasma bolt to the shoulder and was bleeding synthetic blood onto Marcus's floor. You can't run forever, Chan, he gasped. Nexus has resources you can't imagine. We'll find you wherever you go. Maybe, Marcus said, pressing his rifle barrel against Reynolds's forehead. But you won't be there to see it. Wait. Zara grabbed Marcus's arm. Don't kill him. He might have information we need. Marcus looked at her, surprised. After everything she'd been through, she was still trying to save lives. Even the life of someone who'd been sent to capture her. He's corporate security. He won't talk. Then we make him want to talk. Zara's silver eyes had gone cold, and Marcus realized there was steel beneath her gentle exterior. You said Nexus has been hoarding selenium compounds, driving up prices while my people starve. If that's true, then this isn't just about me anymore. Reynolds laughed, a sound like grinding metal. You have no idea what you're dealing with, alien. This goes deeper than mining rights and medicine shortages. Nexus didn't just want to buy you, they wanted to study you. Your species has capabilities that could revolutionize biotechnology, but only if we can understand how your cellular structure processes selenium. What kind of capabilities? Marcus demanded. Regeneration. Adaptation. Your people don't just eat selenium, you incorporate it into your genetic structure. In the right concentrations, with the right catalysts, a Veltheri could theoretically live forever. Reynolds's damaged eyes fixed on Zara. Or better yet, we could synthesize those abilities and transfer them to humans. Imagine it, immortal corporate executives, soldiers who could adapt to any environment, workers who never need rest or food. Marcus felt sick. Human experimentation. Evolution, Reynolds corrected. And she's the key to unlocking it. That's why we froze her accounts. Why we made sure she had no choice but to sell herself. We needed her desperate, compliant. Instead, she found you. Zara was staring at Reynolds with a mixture of horror and rage. How many of my people have you already taken? Enough to know that you're special. Most Veltheri can only process standard selenium compounds. But your blood work from the free clinic shows you can metabolize the refined variants, the ones we've been developing specifically for research purposes. Reynolds smiled, blood leaking from his damaged mouth. You're not just any alien refugee, sweetheart. You're the perfect test subject. Zara was staring at Reynolds with a mixture of horror and rage. How many of my people have you already taken? Enough to know that you're special. Most Veltheri can only process standard selenium compounds. But your blood work from the free clinic shows you can metabolize the refined variants, the ones we've been developing specifically for research purposes. Reynolds smiled, blood leaking from his damaged mouth. You're not just any alien refugee, sweetheart. You're the perfect test subject. The silence that followed Reynolds's words was broken only by the crackling of damaged electronics and the distant wail of sirens. Marcus felt the weight of understanding settling over him like a lead blanket. This wasn't just about corporate greed or alien exploitation. It was about something far more sinister. The blood work, Zara whispered. When I went to the free clinic last month, they said they needed samples for a nutritional assessment. Dr. Yates runs that clinic, Reynolds continued, seemingly unaware that he was signing his own death warrant with every word. Been feeding us data on alien biology for years. Very profitable arrangement. Your people trust him. Tell him things they'd never share with human authorities. Marcus's finger tightened on the trigger, but Zara's hand on his arm stopped him again. Where are they? She demanded. The others you've taken. Where are you keeping them? Reynolds laughed, the sound wet and horrible. You think I'm going to just hand over corporate secrets? Kill me or don't. But I'm not. His words cut off as Zara knelt beside him, her hand touching his wounded shoulder. At first Marcus thought she was being merciful, trying to help him. Then he saw what was really happening. Zara's skin began to glow with a soft silver light, and where her fingers touched Reynolds's wound, his flesh started to change. Not healing, transforming. The blood vessels around the injury began to crystallize, forming delicate traceries of what looked like living glass beneath his skin. Jesus fucking Christ! Reynolds screamed, trying to pull away from her touch. What are you doing to me? Something I learned from my grandmother, Zara said quietly. Veltheri healers can accelerate cellular regeneration, but we can also do the opposite. We can introduce selenium directly into human tissue, and your bodies aren't designed to process it the way ours are. The crystallization was spreading up Reynolds's arm, beautiful and terrifying. His augmented eyes flickered as the change reached his nervous system. The minerals are integrating with your neural pathways, Zara explained, her voice clinical and cold. In about 30 seconds, your brain will be receiving every sensation from those crystallized areas simultaneously. Pain, pressure, temperature. All of it amplified beyond what human consciousness can handle. Stop, Reynolds gasped. I'll tell you what you want to know. Zara didn't stop. The silver light intensified, and the crystallization began moving toward Reynolds's chest. Where are my people? Sublevel 7 of the Nexus Tower. Bioresearch Division. There are 12 of them in holding cells, maybe 15. Please, make it stop. Marcus watched in fascination and horror as the woman he'd thought of as gentle and vulnerable revealed capabilities that bordered on supernatural. The Reynolds he'd been interrogating was gone, replaced by a creature of living crystal and screaming nerve endings. "How do we get to them?" Zara asked. "Service tunnels. There's a maintenance entrance on the south side of the building. Security code changes daily, but I have an override transponder in my jacket." Reynolds's words were coming out in a rush now, desperation overriding any corporate loyalty. "Just make it stop, please." Zara finally pulled her hand away, and the crystallization halted its spread. Reynolds collapsed, sobbing and clutching his transformed arm. Half his shoulder and upper chest now looked like they'd been carved from living gemstone. "Will he die?" Marcus asked. "Eventually. The crystallization will continue slowly, maybe over the course of weeks, unless he finds someone who can reverse the process." Zara stood up, brushing dust from her knees. "I know of one doctor who might be able to help him. Let me guess. Dr. Yates." "Exactly. By the time Reynolds reaches him, Dr. Yates will have heard about what happened here. He'll know we're coming for him, and he'll know what I can do." Zara looked down at the whimpering corporate agent. "Fear is a powerful motivator." Marcus stared at her, seeing her with completely new eyes. "How long have you been able to do that?" "Since I was a child. Most Veltheri can manipulate selenium compounds to some degree, but my family's genetic line has always been stronger than average. That's probably why Nexus wanted me specifically. They must have identified my capabilities from the blood work." The sirens were getting closer. Corporate security would have backup protocols, and Marcus's apartment was no longer defensible. But now they had a target and a way inside. "The Nexus Tower is a fortress," Marcus said, moving to a storage closet and pulling out gear he'd hoped never to use again. "Automated defenses, private security force, probably half the city government on their payroll. But they won't be expecting us to come from below. And they definitely won't be expecting me to do to their security forces what I just did to Reynolds." Zara's silver eyes were hard as diamonds. "My people have been dying while these humans profit from our suffering. That ends tonight." Marcus strapped on additional weapons and armor, transforming from a bitter ex-soldier into something that looked like it had stepped off a battlefield. "This isn't going to be a rescue mission. Once we start this, Nexus will throw everything they have at us. We'll be fugitives for the rest of our lives, assuming we survive the next few hours." "Good," Zara said simply. "I'm tired of running. I'm tired of begging. I'm tired of watching my people die while humans like Reynolds get rich off our pain." She moved to Reynolds and retrieved his transponder, then picked up one of the plasma knives from the fallen agents. The weapon looked alien in her hands, but Marcus could see she was comfortable with it. "Besides," she continued, "you said it yourself. Someone has to give a damn." They left Reynolds crystallizing slowly on the apartment floor and made their way to the fire escape. Corporate security vehicles were surrounding the building, but Marcus's modifications had bought them time. Emergency lights were flashing throughout the sector, and the automated defense systems were still online. The service tunnels beneath Neo Angeles were a legacy of the city's industrial past, before the corporate arcologies had been built and the manufacturing moved off-world. Miles of forgotten passages connected every major building in the financial district, originally designed for utility maintenance, but now used primarily by smugglers and other criminals. Marcus led the way through the darkness, his mechanical arm providing enhanced vision capabilities, while Zara followed silently behind him. Her natural luminescence was dimmed to almost nothing, but he could still see the determined set of her shoulders. "Tell me about Velshan," she said as they walked. The request caught him off guard. "Why?" "Because I need to understand what #a starving alien woman offered her body for food. But no one helped until this man showed up."